There was something that I found to be unreal initially. It felt like that, but apparently it's real because it did happen. Did you know that Pierre, who is the chief business officer of Dfinity, he just returned from Paris, France, and now he's back home. Now the thing is this, in Paris, though, he wasn't just looking at the Eiffel Tower. What he was doing was that he actually met with the United Nations development team and as well as the blockchain advisory group. This is really massive because he mentioned some things about the internet computer, which I think really just put ICP on just a bigger, grander, and more massive scale than ever before. Because now, Pierre, he's talking about this with actual individuals who are really the needle movers, right? The ones that could actually, make moves and stuff like that. I think this is pretty impressive. Now I'll get into that in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice and even though I am not telling anyone to do anything. But did you know that, again, Pierre just went back from Paris, France, and now the thing is this. Remember my last video? I talked about how Pierre could hypothetically and potentially discuss about cloud engines or maybe somewhere along the lines of AI. And clearly he did do that. So now the advisory group, right? If we take a look at the United Nations development team, now they've heard about cloud engines. Now they kind of know more a little bit about it. That's the thing. This is massive when it comes to ICP because ICP, it's no longer competing with random nonsense projects. That's not the case. It's just graduated beyond a bigger level, in my opinion, because now the internet computer has been validified in a much more grander and global scale. We got to think about this as well, though. He did say something else which I find very impressive because there could very well be an upcoming collaboration. He said that he's looking forward to strengthening the collaboration with the United Nations Development Team and as well as contributing to the advisory group. So again, maybe there might be more things in the pipeline. We'll wait and see. But he did say, stay tuned. So we just got to let that sink in. A lot of people think that, oh, the narrative as of right now is that this project is below $3. No one cares about it. Okay, sure. But we don't consider what's going on behind the scenes. Keep in mind, Pierre, again, the chief business officer of Dfinity, was viewed as important enough, right? Relevant enough to be invited to a conference like that. Really massive in my perspective. So we just gotta let that sink in sometimes. ICP, they're not playing around when it comes to this space. And Dfinity isn't playing around. They're actually focused on creating an impact in real life, right? Not just making some random, nonsense thing that no one cares about. That's not the case. They're actually focused on real life things and making an impact. So this is really massive in my perspective. And keep in mind, cloud engines, through that, Dfinity is very focused on the cloud market, a market that is worth around $1 trillion currently. So again, they're not playing around. And keep in mind, the fact that they even are in talks, right, with the United Nations development team, this is really massive because this could be used for future potential partnerships. You know what I mean? Or maybe future potential individuals out there who may be looking to build on ICP. The reason why is because the United Nations development program, that's really massive. If we take a look at the United Nations, everyone knows about it pretty much. That's the thing. So if we take a look at this, when people like to say, oh, ICP, they're in a computer, it's a meme and all this. No, it's not actually, in my opinion. Far from that. Maybe without all this type of stuff, it might be considered a joke. But I don't think that this, if anything, hurts it. I think, if anything, it actually helps it a lot. This is a massive deal when it comes to ICP. Now, people like to say, but yeah, it's still below $3. Okay, I understand that. But we sometimes have to consider the accomplishments of what they've done so far. So when people like to tell me that this is completely irrelevant, let's take a look at it in a couple of years' time, whether or not this is irrelevant or not. You know what I mean? Because they're making moves not only when it comes to partnering up with a random project that we've never heard of. No, having someone on the Dfinity team be invited by the United Nations Development Program team, basically, and allegedly we take a look at it, even having a discussion with the blockchain advisory group, this is really massive stuff. So again, we got to think about that sometimes. But even besides that point though, if we take a look at ICP, people like to say, oh wow, Could it survive a market downturn? Well, in my personal opinion, I think what wins usually during a market downturn is that a team that managed the funds properly, right? They manage their capital and their resources properly. A team that actually cares and are still building and are still thriving. And also on top of that, having a project that is actually sustainable in terms of having products that people actually use, having an actual impact in real life. And as long as I see that right there, typically they kind of survive. And I kind of see those boxes ticked. Because if we think about it, Dfinity, not only are they in survival mode, they're looking to thrive. Keep in mind, they were looking for a new engineer not too long ago. Showcases that they're looking to hire and not fire, right? They're looking to actually hire at a time when a lot of people are focused on the opposite thing. Not to mention as well, Dfinity recently launched Caffeine AI version 3. Major victory. Because, through Caffeine AI, developers no longer need to understand some random programming language. They don't really need to do that. They can just use Caffeine AI, type some random stuff and be like, oh, try to make an app that does this or does that. I've seen even video games made through Caffeine AI. So pretty impressive stuff. And people often also ignore Mission 70, a strategic plan to cut ICP inflation by up to 70% by the end of this year. This is all massive stuff right here. In Dfinity, they're looking for measures to kind of mitigate that hypothetical inflation. And if anything, if I take a look at it, ICP surprisingly has held up a lot better than what I originally thought, because with Bitcoin being at around 60 grand and ICP just still, even despite that, being at around $2.33, that's pretty impressive considering how a lot of people thought that ICP was going to be at $1 as of right now, which it isn't, but I'm saying a lot of people thought that was going to be the case. So it's been holding up pretty okay considering the market conditions and considering just how bad Bitcoin is doing currently. But if anything, low prices don't really disappoint me either, because if ICP went back to around $9, which is November of last year, which was at that level basically, we're already around 3 times lower than that. Now, here's the thing. Someone the other day told me, and if I'm not mistaken, it's my good friend whose name is Vegito, which is, I guess, a reference to the Dragon Ball series, right? I think he mentioned that to me, so yeah. But besides that point, shout out to him. Thank you so much for giving me the super thanks not too long ago. But he told me that his average was around $9. So assuming that, let's say, ICP goes back to November of 2025 levels, he'd just basically be breaking even. Okay, I get that argument, but here's the thing. Because I am hypothetically still dollar cost averaging once a month as of right now, my new entries currently are over 3 times lower than $9. So assuming if my average cost was $9 and I kept hypothetically, dollar cost averaging at below $3, that average cost is going to go down. In which case, if it returns back to $9, then it wouldn't be breaking even hypothetically anymore. It's like, for instance, let's say something is at $10, like let's say that's my average cost, and for whatever reason now the project is hovering at around $2. Okay, the more and more I dollar cost average at $2, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, that average cost is going to start incrementally going down. In which case, let's say it goes down to like $4 or whatever. Now, if it, let's say, goes back to $10, now $4 is over 2 times lower than $10. So that's just kind of the mindset that I have. Like initially, hypothetically, if let's say the average cost was kind of high to begin with, if let's say, the average becomes lower, if it goes back to that previous point, it's no longer break even. It now becomes a hypothetical appreciation, right? But that's just sometimes what I realized. But I'm not telling anyone to do anything, which is why, again, I'm just staying consistent. But I want to say thank you so much for watching today's video.